It's not exactly misleading advertising, but sometimes games can turn out a lot darker than what we initially thought. From the trailers and promo material, we like to think we can get a decent idea of what we're getting ourselves in for, but occasionally the developers like to put in a little additional surprise emotional trauma. I'm Amy from WhatCulture, and here are 10 games way darker than originally advertised. 10. Catherine. It's all fun and games, being a little sheep man, climbing up walls of blocks and cheating on your girlfriend. That is, until you find out that your mistress isn't exactly what she seems. Catherine follows main man Vincent as he struggles with his chronic indecisiveness, not knowing what or who he wants in life. He won't marry his long-term girlfriend Catherine, but he won't break it off either, even when he starts sleeping with a beautiful woman he meets in a bar who also happens to be called Catherine. This seems simple enough, but then boom, Catherine is an ancient evil being and Vincent is her latest bit of prey. He spends his nights trapped in a recurring nightmare in which he has to outrun the demons snapping at his heels, and if he's unfortunate enough to fall victim to those demons in the dream, he'll die in real life. Demons and ancient Sumerian gods certainly weren't what we were expecting when we first looked at the trailer, just laughing at a little man running up some squares with a big angry anime woman screaming at him from the summit. 9. Superhot. Starting off as a bit of meta fun with your player character being sent a cracked game file to play, things soon start to descend into madness for your in-game self. As you progress through the gameplay, you're warned over and over again to stop playing. Of course, as is the nature of us humans, we continue playing despite these scary words. By the time you reach the end of the game, it's all gone to hell. The game your friend sent you in the beginning is much more than a bootlegged EXE. It all plays out as an extended bit of commentary on the horror of consumption. Your player character puts themselves at increasing risk, becoming sucked in and completely addicted to the game. At one point, they remark that they're literally unable to stop playing. They dedicate their body, their resources, and their mind to the game regardless of the cost, in the end taking the irreversible step that is killing themselves to become one with the software. It speaks to the destructive possibilities of technology and the addictive draw of the games, allowing a new title to take over your life. We don't in real life become one with the hive mind of every game we get obsessed with, but the metaphor is still poignant. 8. Spec Ops The Line. Nobody was expecting this to be a walk in the park, but the horrors and atrocities that this game makes you confront still came as quite a shock to some players. The truth behind what life is like in the game's post-disaster Dubai is just as horrifying as the decisions you're forced to make. People praise the game's ability to break away from the expected shooter bravado, instead making every kill feel as part of a larger atmosphere of horror. The real unexpected kicker came with the revelation that our player character Walker has been hallucinating for a large part of the game. Conrad, the supposed bad guy, has been dead for a long time, and Walker created a version of him in his head to rationalize the terrible crimes he was committing. Whichever ending you get after this, they all come with the knowledge that you as the player were part of the horrible decisions that Walker made. The game was more than just a shoot-'em-up warfare romp, it was a brutal commentary on responsibility and consequence in conflict. 7. Echo the Dolphin. Even the name makes this sound like a nice aquatic adventure, but those who have played this classic know not to fall for that. What you initially mistake as being a harmless, seafaring experience has a few remarkably traumatizing turns around the corner. The experience starts as it means to go on, making you feel all cozy and safe with your fishy friends before violently sucking them all out into space whilst a hurricane rages, leaving you useless finny nobody of a dolphin, all alone. Yeah, sounds nice, doesn't it? In your quest to make sense of it all and bring your friends back, you encounter friends and foes alike, all of whom have the potential to make you wince. Like, I'm not saying they're ugly, but I'm definitely not saying they're comfortable to look at. The deep dark ocean, after all, is home to beasts of Lovecraftian nature, and if that wasn't enough, there's also elements of space and time travel, providing plenty of scope for more horrible creatures. Echo the Dolphin's journey is confusing and upsetting, and the pixelated graphics accompanied by the droning, slightly haunting music make the whole thing weirdly uncomfortable. Spoiler alert, the game does have a happy ending, but that's not the problem here. The story in itself isn't inherently scary, but there's some intangible nature throughout the game that makes this a real challenging trip. 6. Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus is a beautiful, widely adored game that packs a definite emotional punch. If you isolate your knowledge to the pretty, sweeping landscapes and intricately designed colossuses we saw in the first promos of the game, you could mistake it for being a simple hunting monsters and getting the girl type deal. What you realise on playing it though is that not only do you not get the girl, you actually lead the player character to becoming somewhat of a monster himself. You're destroying the colossuses in order to earn the assistance of Dormin, who claims he can return your love's soul to her body should you be able to carry out the oh-so-easy task of eliminating these 16 big rocky boys. Dormin, unsurprisingly, has ulterior motives all along, and by the time you've completed the challenge, he's taken over, possessing the player character's body. In the end, you lose your character as you know them, but on a hopeful note, he is reborn and the gal pal does survive. You know, so we take what we can get. 5. Undertale. Now, this one feels pretty obvious, especially because you could be forgiven for playing your whole way through Undertale without knowing that there's a very different, very unsavory route you could have taken. If you choose to do minimal or no killing of monsters, you can get the neutral or pacifist ending. Good for you, you lovely person. However, if you battle your way through the game, slaughtering every monster you encounter, even seeking out more to slay for no reason other than your own bloodlust, you have gone down the genocide path. You have to kill a certain amount of monsters in every location to achieve this, and it is definitely a grind. But if you want a dark ending, then this'll deliver. Every character you meet, you eventually slay until you encounter Chara, the first human to fall into the monster's world. They talk of destroying this pointless earth and moving on to the next, offering you the choice of whether to erase this one or not. Regardless of which one you choose, Chara has the ultimate control and your game will be permanently marked. Not only is it dark because it gives you the ability to commit a giant massacre, but because it doesn't let you forget it and move on either. 4. Fall Guys. This is yet another one of those games that lulls us into a false sense of security because the characters are just cute little lumps. Their pill-shaped bodies and stubby little legs make for the perfect cover for the horrors beneath, as revealed on the official Fall Guys Twitter account back in 2020. They tweeted it out in September, but it really feels like they should have waited until Halloween to make the big reveal, in which we see the malformed, compressed skeletal form inside this bulbous body. The thing has no teeth and no ears, begging the question of how it eats and also how it might hear fellow Fall Guys approaching. No wonder they so often get thrown out into the abyss, because there's no way they could hear the ominous whoosh of one of those giant hammers approaching before they're bonked into oblivion. Considering that most of the time these little guys don't even get a crown for their efforts, their existence really is just one of constant suffering. 3. Bugsnax. Oh, they're little food-shaped buddies, they're little friend-shaped foods. Oh, they're so cute and lovely and it's just a fun adventure. Wrong. You could not be more wrong. Playing as a journalist invited to Snacktooth Island, your mission is to uncover the truth behind the disappearance of the explorer Lisbeth Megafig. When you look at all the cute little Bugsnax and the fuzzy, funny Grumpuses, there's no way you could foresee what would eventually become of them all. Grumpuses consume Bugsnax, each different snack species transforming the Grumpus' bodies in different ways. Well, it turns out that this is a very bad thing because, as is revealed when the missing explorer is found as a horrible mutated beast, the Bugsnax are parasites. They transform whoever consumes them in the long term into just another Bugsnax, and Lisbeth can maybe consider herself lucky that she was at least transformed into their queen. You know, maybe it's more fun being a monarch. Originally, the ending was going to be even darker than how it turned out. According to developer Kevin Zune, the plan was that the Grumpuses would eventually turn into snacks-craving zombies and then devour each other and you. So even if this cutesy adventure turned a little more sour than we expected, at least we know Zune spared us from a worse fate. 2. Inside. The colour palette and aesthetics of Inside alone are enough to warn you that you might be in for a rough ride, venturing through a big, scary, dystopian landscape with just a small boy as your player character. Even though most of the game revolves around a fairly dark concept, the real kicker comes at the end. After all the trials and tribulations of reaching the final chapter, there's no happy resolution. Instead, our beloved little guy gets absorbed into a giant blob of humanoid body parts. The alternate ending doesn't provide much hope either, as instead there he ends up as one of those mindless zombies we've encountered throughout. How dark this ending is depends on the theory you believe about it. Some think that the Huddle, aka the Big Blob, has been controlling the boy the whole time, intending to use him as an agent for its release. Alternatively, some think that it's all just one big metaphor for agency and player control, in which we're the malevolent force controlling the boy, and to go for the alternate ending is to release him and end it all. In truth though, any way you look at it, it's all a bit bloody bleak. 1. Among the Sleep. What initially seemed like a fun horror romp actually turned out to be something a lot sadder when it was revealed that the whole thing was a metaphor for the child protagonist's neglectful mother. Initial trailers made it look like a pretty standard adventure horror. Through the kid's eyes, we see a loving home, a treasured teddy bear, and then, as it turns to night, an unfamiliar, dark nightmare world. When the game came out, it wasn't too far from what was advertised. We still got our teddy bear sidekick and our nightmare traipsing. It was just that the loving mother aspect became a bit more complicated. Revealed inclusions continues throughout the game, as well as one depressing yet kind of hopeful final act. We see that the protagonist's mother isn't the textbook figure we expected from our first glimpses of her. We can deduce that the child's parents are fairly recently divorced, and that the mother has one hell of a drinking problem. The monster all along has been his mum in her drunken rages, and his only salvation comes at the end of the game when he's finally taken by the Child Protective Services. There really are few things bleaker and more upsetting than child abuse or neglect, so this one did really hit hard. And that is the final entry to this list of 10 games way darker than originally advertised. There are a whole bunch more out there, so please let us know in the comments below what ones you would add to this list. And remember to check out WhatCulture.com for more lists and articles like this every single day. I've been Amy from WhatCulture, and I'll catch you next time.